Reports today that Newcastle have taken a big step forward in the hopes to signing Joao Pedro this summer transfer window. Reports are that Brighton are open to negotiating that £60 million transfer fee, and that Joao Pedro himself is open to the move. As well, reports are that Alexander Isak is close to signing that new Newcastle United contract. Going to talk about that. And we all know Eddie Howe loves Mark Gahey, but reports are that Newcastle have been scouting a different centre-back in the hopes to sign a centre-back this summer window. Yes, guys, how's it going? Welcome back to a new video. It's Friday, the weekend is almost here, and it was a busy night at St James's Park last night. If you went to see Sam Fender, looked absolutely fantastic. Obviously on again this Saturday and Sunday. I'm lucky enough to be going tomorrow, so very much looking forward to that. Before we get into this video, be sure to go ahead and subscribe and drop a like. As I say, big news on Alexander Isak getting close to signing his new deal with the club. I mean, throughout the entire actual season, Isak was constantly being linked away from Newcastle. And isn't it funny? As soon as the summer window comes around, the links have just kind of dropped off the face of the earth. And I think that shows exactly how important it was to getting Champions League football this season. It allows us to show Isak, Bruno, Tonali exactly why they signed for this football club and that we are on that upwards trajectory. We won the Carabao League Cup, was big, and now it's what can we do next? And it's going to be huge for bringing players in this summer window as well, as we are about to discuss. Having that carrot of Champions League football is massive. Now, in terms of Alexander Isak's contract, the expectation is it will put him on the wages of what's thought to be the top earner, Bruno, 150. I think it's reported that Gordon may well also be on around 150. And I think you've got the likes of Joe Linton on his new deal is meant to be around 130. And then we'll even go as far to say rumoured rather than reported, because no one exactly knows. But it's thought that Isak sits just below them on 120. They reckon he will take his spot at the top of the list alongside Bruno and Gordon on 150. In terms of contract length, I don't know. It'll be interesting to see what happens with that. As I say, I mean, Isak's already got a massive contract anyway, which is another massive part of why we didn't need to sell him. There was no need to do anything with him, really, because we are under no pressure. It's not like he's got a year left and we need to try and do something. Still multi-year deal there. So there was really no need for us to push on that. But who knows, if we could add an extra year on, that would certainly, is a bit of a good gesture for us as well. You know, Isak, we're going to increase your contract, but by the way, we're going to stick an extra 2 years on. You know, a bit of give and take here on the player, securing his value for us, and obviously just making sure he suddenly doesn't walk out the door in a few years' time. So it'll be interesting to see what comes on that one. Thoughts and comments. If you're happy to see Isak sign a new deal, drop a like on this video. I think it's deserved for the player for the season he's had, and obviously a bit of security for us as well. But despite Isak signing a new deal, it's clear that Newcastle still want to bring in another striker this summer window, and potential big steps to doing so on Joao Pedro. As I say, Joao Pedro is clearly one of the top targets for Newcastle this window, following obviously the Umbuemo deal going to Manchester United. Well, the reason I mention that is reports today that he's now looking to go into Spurs. Is ringing everyone in the Premier League and finding out who's going to offer them the most money. I would be shocked if Spurs were the one to offer Umbuemo more money than Manchester United. But you know what? Maybe just doing that. Oh, by the way, Manchester United, Spurs have offered 300,000. Can you up your deal by an extra 30k? Absolutely crazy. I still think it's a massive shame. I think he's a great player and would have loved him here. But we've moved on. We're talking to Joao Pedro. We're talking to Brighton. Reports are that Brighton, despite having previously been a little bit standoffish, you know, the talks of 70 million were for me quite high. I would argue even 60 million is still quite high. But The reports are that Brighton are open to negotiations on the price in the hope to, well, I think Brighton are probably realising that he is going to go, that there's been other interest in other areas. I mean, Chelsea are also knocking on Joao Pedro's door, which, again, how many strikers does Chelsea need? Does he want to go and play there with the other 4 strikers that they've got? I don't know. At least he knows with us, he will get the game time. I've said this before. Will he start first game of the season? Probably not, because Isak will. But will he get tons of opportunities in Champions League, Cup games, Premier League? Absolutely. He will get plenty of game time at Newcastle United. And as reports have said today, he is open to the move to Newcastle United. So straight away, we're starting to get everybody hopefully singing off the same hymn sheet. You've got Pedro saying, yeah, I'm up for it. I'm open to the move. Chance to play Champions League football. You've got Brighton who, funnily enough, the day that they become open to negotiations is the day that they announce a new striker signing themselves. They have today signed 34 million 18-year-old, if I'm not mistaken, striker from Olympiacos. So there you go. All of a sudden, we're not fussed. Sign a new striker. Oh, actually, yeah. Do you still want Joao Pedro? So it's funny how that's all kind of coming out on the same day, but it makes sense. Brighton want to make sure they have striker options going into the new season. Obviously, they've already got Danny Welbeck. They've already got a few other players pushing for opportunities. They've now signed another striker. I think, quite probably they'll want to recoup the money from Joao Pedro to help pay for that, and maybe some other transfers this window as well. So yes, with that happening, it's almost opening the door for Newcastle to step in and, I guess, take this to the next level. I mean, the reports are quite literally a deal can be done as Newcastle look to take next step on Joao Pedro. So thoughts and comments on him. Would you be happy to sign Joao Pedro? Drop a like on the video. And as I say, we're still pushing for Elanga. That's another one that's still going on, but it's he is one of 3 or 4 players in that Newcastle are looking at. Interestingly, and I thought I would mention this one, the other one is Kudas, the player from West Ham. His name's been kind of touted around a little bit, and a part of that is because West Ham are one of the teams who are thought to be experiencing PSR issues. Now, I was looking at this the other day. I mean, how good would it be if Newcastle actually just blew the bank and just got Jarrod Bowen? He's probably, despite PSR issues, he's probably the only player West Ham would not sell. I think they would rather take points deductions than sell Jarrod Bowen. But honestly, if Newcastle could make a move like that, that would be crazy. But as I say, the right wing situation, I mean, that's why they like Pedro, because he's versatile. He can actually play anywhere across the front 3. I think generally speaking, it is that striker spot. And if we can get Pedro and Elanga in, I mean, you're absolutely winning at the start of this window. And then it's the centre back. And as I say, as much as Eddie Howe loves Mark Gahey, we have another man on our scouting list. So yes, this is a name you may well have seen before. I was having a look back through at previous kind of newspaper articles, and he was linked with Manchester United once upon a time. He's being linked with Newcastle, Arsenal, and Chelsea right now. And I want to say Diomande, the Sporting centre back, 21 years old, Ivory Coast international. And as I say, Ivory Coast international. Newcastle looking at him as an option and have been sending scouts to see him over the past season. So it's all well and good to say that, Gahey's the man, but it's clear that Newcastle are looking at other options, which I think is key. And as we talk about, 60 million, even 60 million Joao Pedros, 50 million Elangas, I think 50 million for Elanga's fair. And I suppose if you say that, then maybe 60 million is right for Joao Pedro, because I would still argue that Joao Pedro has a higher ceiling than Elanga does, so maybe those are about right. But if you're going to go and spend 110 million on them two, then Palace come in, they want 50 million for Gahey. All of a sudden, what I hoped would be a 4, 5, 6 player window, really it's going to be 3. So I think it's very sensible to maybe bring in 1 or 2 Premier League players at what will always be that inflated cost because it's a Premier League player, and then looking abroad for maybe 2 or 3 others that, yeah, fair enough, they might not hit the ground running in the Premier League. They might take a little bit of a time to adjust, But that's fine, you know, because we have players who play those positions now, but we are preparing for the future. 21 years old, you know, you give him as long as he needs to bed in at a reasonable price. I mean, the other 21-year-old or 22-year-old would be linked with this James Trafford, but it looks like that one's fell off the side of a bridge when Burnley decided they wanted 40 million. So, and slight tangent here because this wasn't what I was going to talk about, but you know, we're talking 40 million for Trafford. Kelleher went to Brentford for like 13 million. So I just think the evaluation of that one's just absolutely mad. And look, if he's one of the ones that Eddie Howe thinks is key, him for 40, Joao Pedro for 60. Like, oh, we're really going to get Elanga for 50 as well. Like, I know they say we've got 250 million to spend, but I don't think we'll spend it all. I think you're looking at a 150 million window, and then we might push a little bit further if the options are on. But that's why, in terms of picking these players, you know, I think Pedro and Elanga is probably a great move. And then maybe look a little bit like, let's not stop buying the £20 beers off the front pier. Let's go down the alleyway and have a look at some like £2.50 cans or something, you know. But it still tastes the same. The beers are just as good, but you're not buying it from the expensive shop window, are you? So there you go. That was off the top of my head. Quite like that one. Thanks for watching, guys. I'm going to end it there. If you would like to see Newcastle go for Diomande, drop a like on the video as well. So there's 3 players there. If you like any of them, drop a like. That should hopefully get the likes up on this video. Thank you for watching. Subscribe if you haven't already. Enjoy your Friday. Enjoy your weekend as well. If you're at St. James's Park, enjoy it. It looks like it's going to be fantastic if Thursday's anything to go by. But yes, great news on Pedro. Hopefully we can see someone, you know, outside of St. James's Park very soon. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you later.